Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Boivin comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Boivin decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Boivin shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. In How to Be a Success Champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Boivin, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Boivin, available on Amazon.
Hello. Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Payo. Today, my guest is Jerry Abiog. Jerry is a startup guy. Love having startup guys on shows, founders, because it's a hard world out there to build something from scratch and execute it, and it takes a certain mindset to get there. He's the founder of an AI-driven growth marketing platform called Standard Insights. It's got 25 plus years of sales and marketing experience, and together with his co-founders, they've got over 100 years of experience. So welcome to the show, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. So, one of the things I always talk about is a little bit about how I meet people that come on the show, because it reinforces this idea around networking and making connections with people that you might not have had a chance to meet otherwise. And the podcast has led me to meet people that I haven't been able to meet otherwise. You'd be in one of them. I like to chat with startup people, and sometimes you're not always sure where you can go find people in that space and connect with and talk to, or especially if you have an interest in supporting like a local startup ecosystem in your community. So you have to kind of get out there and meet people and see where it goes. And that's kind of one of the things that the podcasting led me to do, is a chance to meet people in this space that I might not have came across otherwise. So it's awesome to have you on the show, Jerry. That's a little bit about, I think, how we met was through a connection of you requested to be a guest on my podcast, and me having a podcast, we were able to make that connection. And
Anchor FM, yeah.
So what's been your experience with being in the startup world and the importance of having a good network of connections?
Man, it's vital. How the co-founders and I came to meet each other and develop the startup, it wasn't by answering an ad in the newspaper, if you will. It was leveraging connections and sometimes loose and sometimes tight relationships and building, upon them.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the business that you're working on and how you came up with the idea and where you plan to take it.
Yeah, so Standard Insights, it's, as you had mentioned in the intro, it's an AI-driven growth marketing platform. And what we do, we help businesses of all sizes, could be the small mom and pop all the way to enterprise level, prioritize and execute data-driven omni-channel campaigns. And why is that important? Well, it helps any business, your business, target the right person with the right product or service at the right time to help drive both top and bottom line growth. And at the end of the day, it helps that business using AI become competitive in a data-driven world.
Mm-hmm.
Going through what the world is going through right now, it's never been more important to be data-driven in any facet of business or life.
Yeah, I do believe that the data is out there and there's a lot of it. It's hard to sometimes navigate through. So we use a lot of objective observations or anecdotal experiences, and we say, oh, well, 3 people said this is a good idea, so it must be. And that's not always the case, you know? Sometimes the data tells you otherwise.
Yeah, and going forward and before, what we're experiencing now happened, Accenture put out a study, this was late last year, that the impact of AI for business will be so big that it was a study put out that 75% of business leaders, with a study conducted by Accenture, that if they don't adopt AI, that, over 80% of businesses will go out of business within 5 years if they don't adopt this methodology. And I think since that study was put out, it's even more accelerated given the light of what everyone's experiencing right now.
Yeah, that's important stuff to have. So my first question for you revolves around this idea of luck, and especially, I think it's especially important in startup culture. Is a lot of people go, somebody invented like an app like Facebook or Instagram. They say, oh, that person got lucky because like they invented something. They've made a bunch of money off it, or people that invested in those businesses got lucky because they were able to get their foot in the door early. Do you believe that people are lucky in that sense of the word?
So kind of a gray area. I mean, with the luck thing, I get it that some people have a head start, when they're being born than others. But once you're a fully functioning adult, above 18, you got to take your own responsibility. It's up to you, not anyone else, for you to start forming relationships with people. They could be tight or loose relationships, maybe someone you see at the gym, or maybe you're coming out of college, or whatever it may be. It's going to be up to that individual to their responsibility to form relationships with the people around them. Mm-hmm. Could be online or offline.
I totally agree with that, because like, let's go back to my example of like, if you wanted to be an investor in the next big startup business, like you can't just sit at home and wait for them to show up at your door. You have to have a general interest in like, hey, I want to get plugged into a startup culture. So how do I do it? And you start hanging out with people that are in startup culture, and that's going to introduce you to all sorts of people. And then that's going to lead your chances of somebody coming along and saying, hey, I got this great business idea. We're looking for investors, or we're looking for founders, or we're looking for early hires to join the team. You're going to be, if you have that interest, you start hanging around those people, the chances of you finding an opportunity that fits your goals and your objectives is going to be a lot higher than just, waiting and praying that somebody's going to show up at your door.
Yeah, this is how Standard Insights formed. I was with another startup a few years back, and I think when we were in a green room with, I know you're out in California, I go, yeah, I was up there 3 years ago, involved with another startup, and that startup failed. But I learned, and they said that you learn from failures, which is true, because 2 things I learned from working with other startup is, number one, if you're selling a piece of software or technology, your end users, your customers want something that's easy to use. And you could have the best, most awesomest idea in the world, but if you don't have paying customers, then that doesn't mean anything. So that's the one thing I learned from there. And then the second thing I learned there was something bubbling beneath the surface with regards to AI-driven applications. So back then, if you had approached someone with AI, maybe 3 out of 10 people would, oh yeah, AI. Now, 3 years later, since the last time I was out in California, maybe 7, out of 10 people would have an idea about AI. So knowing those two things, you're always constantly meeting, networking with people, and just through, serendipitous events, if you will, through mutual friends. I met my future co-founder who used to live in Atlanta. He used to work for a Fortune 50 company as a technological architect, and he approached me with this idea that he had and this application, and knowing what I knew from the past, like, hey, this could be something big. So if not knowing what I had known in the past or learned from the past failures, would I have met my future co-founder, or had known the idea about AI? So I took that concept. I went out to a trade show in Denver and came back to Atlanta, a week later with our first beta customers. So yeah, you're always on the lookout. You're always learning and meeting new people and leveraging what you've known in the past to help you, become a better person,
Yeah.
both professionally and personally.
I love what you said about like the failure aspect and learning from it. Like a lot of times we think like, hey, we can't go do something that we want to do in life because if we fail, we're going to be devastated. But especially in like startup and building businesses world, like your odds of failing are significantly higher. You're gonna, what they say, 2 or 3 businesses succeed, the rest fail within 5 years. So your odds are already stacked against you. But the more times you try it, the more likely you're going to get something to eventually stick. And you learn like, hey, why didn't this idea work? Why didn't I have customers? Why didn't I have the right people? And you start meeting. And then when you start connecting with other people in that same situation, a lot of times like you have an idea and I have an idea, and at the time we meet, like, hey, we're working on separate stuff, but they both end up, not working out for whatever reasons. But we always knew, hey, you had a really good head on your shoulders. You were involved in a lot of stuff, and you're somebody I would bounce ideas off. Like, I'm going to call you up, say, hey, I got this going on. What do you think about it? And next thing you know, you're kind of bouncing ideas back and forth, and you start looking like, hey, maybe this is something we can do together. So you're learning from experience, and like your story isn't written just because you tried to found a business and it didn't fail, or it failed, and you can't move to the next one. Those experiences set us up for who we become, and we're able to take those things. So I think, you to get lucky right out of the gate and have your first business be a super, super duper success. I mean, that happens to people a lot, but it's definitely the hard work they put in. But more often than not, you're going to have some failures that you're going to have to overcome and learn from. And the other thing, that you pointed out was this idea of the greatest product ever, but no customers. And I always tell people, if they're doing pitch contests or they're talking to investors, you go watch the people that win the pitch contest. Like, and if you go and ask the judges why did they pick them, it's never so much about the idea itself. It's that they have customers. It's always like the ones that win have a proven product with customers. And the people that are just ideas, they might be a good idea, but they tend not to win because they don't have the customers yet. So it's all about getting those customers.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about failures. We had, I guess, a mini failure, if you will, within Standard Insight. So this time last year, we developed a contactless, menu and contactless, payment system. And I had broached ideas to a couple of the restaurant owners that I know in my neighborhood. And they go, hey, Jared, this sounds, great, but, we got a fully functioning wait staff. And I don't want to have to, lay them. I get it's more efficient and an AI-driven menu. Cool idea, but, no thanks. So fast forward, March of this year, when everything in the world has been shut down. So I sent my buddy who owns this restaurant up the street from me an email. I said, hey, man, remember last year we talked about this? And so I sent him an email, I sent him a text. I go, what do you think? And then I went and got food from him, carry out. That's how restaurants are doing it for the time being right now. And I said, hey, man, I got my mask on. He has his mask on. It's like, hey, did you see that email I sent you? What do you think? And he goes, yeah. I'll take a look at it. You just never know, right? Mm-hmm. So literally the other day, he lives in the neighborhood. I was walking the neighborhood, my wife and I, and he yells across the street, he's like, "Hey man, did you send me that app yet?" So now, even though mini failure that, wouldn't have applied a year ago, now that's what restaurants are looking for. So even if you had, mini failures, you had an idea, doesn't mean you have to put it on a shelf. So we had the app 80% developed. We put it in the garage. Now we pulled it out of the garage and we're in the process of launching it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it goes back to like your 3 year ago trip to California, where you started talking like you're exposed to AI as this concept of a new idea that's like you're familiar with it, but not a lot of people are familiar with it, and they're not realizing the capabilities of it.
Yeah.
But you're surrounding yourself with the idea, and it's evolving and it's developing, and you're essentially creating something that you see the future in.
Yeah.
But people aren't ready to adopt it until their circumstances change, where it becomes, a pain point for them. To investigate new things. Like you're saying, the guy, a year ago, hey, I got a wait staff. It's working out for me. Everything's good. I don't want to lay people off. Today, it's a different story. He's probably still doesn't want to lay his staff off, but he's in a position where like, I can't hire staff and I can't get people in my restaurant. And even if I do open back up, I might not be able to support the staff I currently have. So I have to rethink my business model to stay in the game. And then all of a sudden these ideas that we're thinking about and developing become pushed to the forefront, and they become an idea like, hey, they just, if you wait till the idea is and the timing's right for it, it's going to be too late. So you kind of have to be aware of what's going on and chase those ideas, knowing that, hey, if I go down this path, I'm going to discover a lot about myself and about the idea, and it's going to evolve, but it could turn into something pretty big.
Yeah, and if you take a look, so we're experiencing what we're experiencing now, but so I'm 48, so I do remember, 9/11, that happened. So what pulled us out there was some, technology started bubbling then, right? And then go back to the Great Recession. What was it, 2008, 2009? Tech pulled the economy out of the crapper. If you will. If you remember, Blockbuster, you still could rent movies at the time. Mm-hmm. And a little known Netflix came along, hey, doing this online subscription. No one really knew what it was about. I think you could rent the DVDs. They have them delivered to your home and you return it. But look where Netflix is right now, and look where Blockbuster is right now. Maybe if Blockbuster had listened, or maybe we're more progressive with the applications of technology, they wouldn't have shut down.
Mm-hmm. And you talked a little bit about like tech pulling us out of the last recession. That's like what was started then, like Facebook, Instagram, those things started coming out, and YouTube. They started setting like a precedent for, one, you have technology as this business, that's one way of generating revenues and jobs creation, but it's also allowed people to promote their businesses in a bigger scale. So there's, we talk about people being influencers or social media celebrities, but there's a lot of people that, like, if you owned like a little mom and pop fitness center, like you could reach a bigger audience and have more services to offer. And I think that's the same thing you're on the path now, is AI isn't going to necessarily just take away from jobs. It's going to make things more efficient. And then the people that you do have, you can you could deploy them to be in better roles. And, I was talking to another gentleman that does a lot of AI manufacturing and robotic manufacturing, and I said, hey, how do you answer the question, like you're taking jobs away from hardworking people? And he said, hey, we're already in a labor shortage. Like, I already can't get enough people to work in it. So if I can provide an automated system, I'm going to be able to drive construction costs down. I'm going to be able to drive schedules down, which is going to make home building more affordable to people. And you're like, yeah, you're right. If you can't get resources, it's going to cost more. So like you have to discover solutions to providing those resources that people are going to still be able to frequent their places of business and do what they're up to.
And it's never easy, right? So we have the facts, what the data says, and then we're all humans, so we're always, hey, our gut instinct, what feels good, what makes us feel good. But now as we're learning, our gut instinct may not always be right. Just because it makes us feel good does not mean it's going to be the right answer to help solve a problem or help grow your business.
Yeah, for sure. Now, talk to me a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur. Like what led you down this path of deciding this is the lifestyle you wanted to do? You wanted to build things in your head. You wanted to create solutions. Like it's not for everybody.
Yeah, so it wasn't an overnight process. So if you look at my LinkedIn profile, my last corporate job was in 2011. And I was doing sales. And, someone just threw maybe having beers across, say, hey, man, you could just do this on your own. It's like, yeah, I thought about it and I already have the knowledge and mindset. So I kind of already had, so I went out on my own, helped businesses, software companies with sales and marketing initiatives. So some of my clients did well. Some of them had, great exits. And I just found clients through networking. It wasn't like I put an ad out on LinkedIn, hey, if your business needs help. I just kind of people that I knew who knew other people that needed help. And so so this was 3-4 years ago. I worked with a company that was an AI machine learning startup. That's the one where I was telling you in the green room that it failed. It failed miserably. I mean, we had funding, if I'm not mistaken, up to $1 million and not one paid customer. So that was a big bust. But how learning from that, I leveraged the knowledge I gained when I was out last time in California at the National Retail Federation conference, and then had met that guy in Atlanta through mutual friends, and he pitched me about his idea. So it never happens overnight. It's kind of a slow roll, if you will, to get to where I'm at right now. Now we've been self-funded, and we're looking to scale. So that's how that whole journey, started. And what I'm currently doing right now, the journey continues. The mission continues. Did
you ever feel like you had an itch to do this, that like if you didn't chase that desire, that you would always be looking for something else? Or
yeah, I just don't want to second guess myself, what could have been. Right? Maybe it's like the athlete. Hey, I used to be, I remember Married with Children, Al Bundy. Yeah. He was always looking at his football days. I guess 4 touchdowns in one game. Yeah, you didn't always want to be that guy. You always want to be continuing to grow and not, rest on your laurels. And, the fact that been lucky, having 3 other co-founders, 4 including myself, that work well together. It's a blessing and it's awesome. And we're always looking to improve not only ourselves, but our tool each and every day. And that when we do that, it helps improve our customers as well.
Yeah. I like your analogy of Al Bundy and like, live in your glory days, or are your glory days behind you, or are they in front of you? Which kind of leads me to my next question, this idea of being all in on something. To me, I'll get your take on it. What does it mean to you to be all in on an outcome or an idea?
Yeah, it's simple. Don't do anything half-ass. Give it 110%, get after it. But, at the same token, you've got to balance. Start running a startup, launching a startup, and it never ends. It's, hey, is the product developed, get customers. Once you have customers, servicing those customers, getting new customers, and then, growing to a certain level, and then, getting funding. But even though that could be a 24/7 job, you also have the balance, family. We have a rule here at the house, 5 o'clock, Eastern time, or all, the laptop is shut off, or that we, my better half and I, we take walks, in the evening, and, I'm focused on that walk and engaging, not focused on, an email that's sitting on my desk, but being 110% committed to whatever you do, and, don't do it half-ass.
Yeah. I like your point about being really essentially present in the moment. Like you're all in at the startup world until 5 p.m. And then it's like, nope, now we're all in on time at home with the family. And you talk about balance because, looking at your resume, which isn't, probably the same resume you put on LinkedIn, is you've ran Ironman races, you've done 40-mile ultra marathons, you've got, blue belt in jiu-jitsu. These are things that, they're not something you just walk up and say, hey, this weekend I'm going to go for a 40-mile run, or I'm going to go roll on the mat with some guys that could take my head off. Like you have to put in some skill and time to learn those. So, how has that affected your, how has that balance worked in your life?
So it helps, having a mindset where you're getting after it, whether it's in work or on your personal time, helps, right? It helps, learning to be, uncomfortable. Obviously in jiu-jitsu, someone's about to check you out, you can tap, you shake hands with that guy. But, what we're experiencing now, no one's ever experienced. So no one has really any of the answers, but, being uncomfortable is like, okay, I may not know the answers here or what's going to happen tomorrow, but I've kind of been in similar situations. Hey, what happened? How did the world respond, or how did I respond to the 2008, 2009 recession? How did I respond back in 2001? So all these experiences help. It doesn't mean it's easier. Do I wake up? Sometimes I have sleepless nights. So it's never easy, but if you have in your mindset that, hey, I've gone through difficult things in the past, and this too shall, work its way out.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that mindset of like, you're on a journey. You don't always know the end destination. Yeah. There's going to be obstacles, but that consistently attacking challenges, you're going to overcome it, or you're going to adapt. You're going to accomplish where you need to go, and it's not going to destroy you if you continuously push it forward. And
like when this all started, I didn't. So I did my first podcast or LinkedIn Live interview at the end of February. It was a buddy of mine here. He's like, hey, come on my show. And I kind of knew it in the back of my head that I always wanted to do it, but didn't know how much. So I didn't, you make your own luck, right? So I was on that show, and one of the listeners or whoever watched up LinkedIn Live, he had his show of his own. Mm-hmm. And after the show was over, he sent me an email. I was like, hey, I'd love to have you on my show. And I was like, all right, cool. Maybe there's something here. So I started taking those clips and would just send them out to, I'm an ardent listener of podcasts anyway, mm-hmm. other podcasts, business marketing related. And then another guy said, hey, I'd love to have you on. So I had done 3 podcasts before the whole world shut down. Now I've been sending these rails out to people. I think that he did to you. It's like, hey, and poof, in the last 2 months, probably I've done, 15 shows. And then just the other week, I had an article that was published for the AI Time Journal. Mm-hmm. So I went through a somewhat lengthy application process. So to ask me some questions, what are your, how do you view yourself as an expert in the AI space? And I go, hey, here's my LinkedIn profile. I've been interviewed a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. And then poof, and they send me an email back. Hey, love for you to write an article. So you're always constantly, working to improve yourself and, taking advantage of certain situations. The whole world's locked down. I had done 2-3 shows prior to it happening. So now let's leverage this because people are all at home.
Yeah.
And then, writing for that AI Time journal was like, hey, how can you show, like, well, I've been interviewed all these times. Check out my reels. So yeah, you're always constantly building, looking to improve yourself on a daily basis.
I love that, you're talking about that you're creating your own look and you're putting yourself in positions where your chances for luck to occur are more often. And being on a podcast or being interviewed is a lot like networking in the sense is you're sharing a message, and you might say, oh, did 20 or 50, 100,000 people hear the message? Well, that's not really as important as did one or two of the right people hear the message, and so like you pointed out, like one person hears this message, they ask you to be on something else, which introduces you to the next person who maybe is the guy that's going to fund your startup, or it's the guy that's going to be your real first big powerful client. Those are the things I think when you just know, like, hey, I'm going to put myself out there in positions to see what happens. I don't know the outcome, but chances are it's going to lead to somewhere positive if I do it long enough and consistently enough. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. And with podcasting and article writing, it's on the internet, and just getting your name out there. Right?
It does. So talk a little bit about your business in specifics. Who would be the ideal person you're looking to bring on board, either A, through investors, or B, as in clients, or both, if you want to talk about the both ideal people that you're looking to connect with?
So a couple things. So we're looking to help businesses with a minimum clientele of 250 plus customers. So AI works by analyzing a lot of cause and effect data. So ideally, we'd like to see a benchmark of 250. Prior to this, the global shutdown, we were looking for clients that had a revenue, north of 1 million. But now you're always adapting and overcoming. We have adjusted our service offerings to help, the small businesses, right? So one of those things is the contactless menu application, that AI-driven menu application that we're currently launching. So yeah, your mom and pop restaurant up the street is not going to be generating $1 million from revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So any small business that has a minimum of 250 plus customers, we can help. And if they want to reach out, see what we're about, take a look at our app, they can reach me on LinkedIn. I think you may have it in the show notes.
I'll put everywhere in the show notes they can find you. But that leads me to the next question. Where should people go first if they want to just find out a little bit more about what you're up to?
So LinkedIn, I'm most active there. Jerry Abiog, Standard Insights. It'll pop up. They can see all the podcasts I've been on and some of the articles I've written. And number two, they can go to our website, standardinsights.io. We're in the process of getting it updated, by once the show goes out, it'll be finished. Or three, they can send me an email, Jerry, Jerry, @standardinsights.io.
Awesome. So yeah, I'd recommend everybody get connected with Jerry, see what he's doing, pay attention to what he's up to. If you're a founder or you're looking for, investment opportunities, maybe see what he's about. If you're a customer and you think, there's some opportunity to improve your bottom line, reach out to Jerry and see what he's doing. But definitely connect with him and just pay attention, see what's going on. Appreciate you coming on the show, Jerry.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell two friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.